Well, lockout day 49 is starting today.
All
We
right.
had a little bit of news last week where the players and owners decided to actually talk for the first time in 6 weeks.
It was
Unfortunately,
43 days. It was on day 43 they decided to
yeah,
talk.
yeah. So all that talk was identical to all the previous talks to December 2nd, where the owners sent a proposal that was most likely ridiculous. I never saw the actual details, but the reports were that the players were very disappointed and summarily rejected it, of course. So not surprising. What's just annoying and I guess shouldn't be surprising with all this is, again, we keep stating this, the stated goal of the owners choosing to start this lockout. And I will say this over and over again. We did not have to have this lockout. This was there was no legal mechanism that was requiring a lockout. This was simply a decision by Rob Manfred and the owners and their lawyer, Rob Manfred, decided to lock out with the stated goal of being to kickstart negotiations, essentially light a fire under both sides to create a sense of urgency.
Done a great
And
job.
yeah, and they immediately went on vacation for 6 weeks. So well done, Rob and owners. You have summarily failed in your goal. That is obviously bullshit. That was not their goal. I don't know what.
Goal.
I mean, that may have been their goal, but they were very misguided, as we all knew this is what was going to happen. So we're essentially at square one. Nothing has changed since, I mean, in the last 3 years, essentially. Um, the good news, I guess, would be we are not in crunch time yet, and that's why we're seeing the same bullshit for weeks and weeks and weeks. Now 7 weeks into the lockout, we talked about this a little bit. The timeline where things get shit gets real in this is essentially the first week of February. We're 2 weeks away before spring training might be affected by this lockout. And once spring training is affected, that's where you get into when the regular season could be affected, and that's when the shit hits the fan. So we're still a couple weeks away from DEFCON 5 or DEFCON 1, however that scale works. I mean, I guess there's reason for panic at that point. I don't know. Maybe we should decide if we're going to panic or have a wry smile when this starts to get into panic mode as the rest of the world is panicking. I don't know. I don't know what my reaction is going to be. I mean, I'm definitely going to be angry as things go on, and just as most fans will be. Or are we just going to be indifferent? Are we just going to be rolling our eyes at this point?
I think the stupid part to all this is the whole idea that nothing really gets done until it gets down to the wire. Every article I've read over and over again about this is none of this should be surprising. Nothing really gets done until the 11th hour. Okay, well, why?
It's human nature, I think, is part of that. I don't think this is specific to baseball labor negotiations. I think this is how all labor negotiations work. They're waiting till the other blinks is what it comes down to, which is it's just stupid. It's short-sighted. It's self-involved. It is not taking the best interest of baseball in mind. It's taking the best interest of the owners and the best interest of the players, and not thinking about the health of the game itself or the fans. That's one thing we haven't talked a whole lot about and it's futile is why I haven't brought it up much. But the fans, I almost feel like the fans deserve a seat at this table. I mean, which is ludicrous, but the only reason they get to have these negotiations and fight over billions of dollars is because it's our fucking money.
Yes.
So
we're funding this. So get it done. We are going to pay to see you play unless we are so angry. Unless we are just so angry again at baseball that they shoot themselves in the foot. Now, history would say, because a lot of these owners have been there, including the White Sox owner, back in '94 when baseball took a hit, like
a rather prominent owner in those negotiations.
Yes, right. And you would think they would be like, we can't really afford that financially again. So
they absolutely can. That's the problem. I mean, that's where this gets dark, because and this is why owners always win these in the end. Whether it's the margin of victory is what changes with all these negotiations. The owners always win. They've got the money to wait this out. They almost tried to, they were negotiating for fewer games throughout 2020. That's all they wanted, the least number of games to pay people, because it doesn't matter. They could survive. They could have survived that season without any games. They survived it with 60 games. They can survive this season without playing any games. And that's what's terrifying, that they might get to the point where they just are so bullheaded and stubborn that they just wipe out the whole season and just say, hey, we're going to have lower attendance for 3 to 5 years after this, as people are summarily rejecting baseball as an entertainment form. But they're gonna bet on diehards like you and me across the country. Eventually, if we don't come back immediately, that we will come back eventually. And they have the coffers, they have the money, they have the war chest to wait this out. Players do not, and that is why the players are doomed. It's just like I said, it's the margin of victory. It's the margin of victory that they're going to lose by. The margin of victory for the owners. The players are hoping to get some gains back from how trounced they have been over the last several labor negotiations, CBAs. They're finally putting their foot down and saying, we fucked up, especially in the last one 6 years ago. So they're going to try and get gains back, but it's a matter of how stubborn each side's going to be is what it comes down to. So, boy, that got dark fast, but we're not to that point yet. If we get into February, I'm not too torn up about losing some spring training games. If they have to shorten spring training a little bit to accommodate this shit show, but keep the regular season on schedule, I think I'm fine with that. I think all fans are fine with that. Although I did see I've been getting a barrage of emails from the Cubs and Tigers saying they are now selling spring training tickets.
Yeah, I got the White Sox one. I think I texted you that as like, oh, all right, well, hey, good news.
Yeah, thanks.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
I got a notice for tickets.
Well, I can tell. I mean, part of my real job is making signage and other things for a few different spring training facilities in Florida and Arizona, and we're proceeding as normal. I mean, you have to assume that they'll get this done. So, I know the business side of it is proceeding as things are happening. We'll see. So I mean, I think we'll probably do this show every couple of weeks now. As news is going to be ramping up one way or the other. As like you said, everything I've read shows that there's no reason to get antsy about this until February, and we're just under 2 weeks from February. So that's where we're going to see a lot more consternation. I'm hoping we're going to see a lot more meetings. I have not seen another meeting scheduled after that one we had last week.
Well, so this morning, Heyman reported that they're giving a player proposal is going back to the owners.
Oh, okay.
This week, in the next few days.
Because all I've seen is that the players just keep rejecting what the owners show.
Yeah, I mean, basically the owners left again, the key things they wanted to talk about off the table. They brought in expanded playoffs, universal DH, shortening paying a 2-year player more than they get paid now without having to deal with the arbitration process. But why would you want to get rid of the arbitration process when you could probably get even more money if your stats produce that?
I think we should break that kind of stuff down once those are more concrete, because that shit gets really complicated. The economic, I hadn't heard anything about that they were even talking about core economic issues, or that the players were going to be proposing anything. But that's the crux of it. The arbitration and how quickly you can get to free agency. Those are the issues that players are most interested in, where the owners wouldn't even talk about that prior to this, which is unreal. Like they're closing their eyes and plugging their ears. La 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 la. We're not going to hear any of this. I mean, that's literally how I feel these have been going so far.
Part of it's because the owner said it's not even on the table.
That's what I mean.
Which is like
that's the same as a 5-year-old child just saying just starting to scream at the top of their lungs, not listening to anything they're saying. It's like, what are we doing here, children?
Yeah. It's like, okay.
Well, I think that's plenty of lockout talk for this week. As I said,
Lockout.
there's gonna be lots. It's gonna be ramping up as we approach February. So that'll be I don't know about fun, but it'll be interesting to be talking about going forward.
Word Hole Media.